Hello, Trail Travelers. It's Carrie with Trail Traveler, and we have a new GMRS radio we're going to talk about today, the Radioditty GM-30. So stay right there. We'll be right back. Okay, we're going to talk a radio today, and to me, this is a biggie. You should have communications when you're on the trail. And for many, many, many years, it was CB radio. CB radio ruled the airwaves for decades. And now GMRS is really taking over. We go wheeling every weekend. We're always running into new people. Nobody has a CB radio. Or if they do, they have a CB radio, but they also have a GMRS or FRS radio, in which case we can talk to them. We have a GMRS radio. I only recently took out my CB radio because it hadn't been used in over 2 years. So GMRS is certainly the wave of the future. In fact, most of the big Jeep events now are requiring GMRS radios. So just a little background. There's two compatible systems: FRS, Family Radio Service, and GMRS, the General Mobile Radio Service. Now, when I say compatible, they're sort of compatible. A FRS radio can be talked to and listened to by a GMRS radio, but not necessarily the reverse. A GMRS radio has more channels that go above the FRS frequencies. So if you go to Home Depot or Walmart or whatever, and you buy some FRS radios, a GMRS radio can talk to and communicate with those radios. But if you take your GMRS radio and go into the higher frequencies, you're going to lose that FRS radio. So that's the difference there. GMRS, absolutely the way to go. They're really affordable, cheaper than most CB radios. So I have a larger system, a 50-watt system in the Jeep itself, the BTEC 50X1, link above for that video. But today we're going to talk about a handheld, and we'll compare it to kind of the gold standard in handheld radios, so to speak, or at least the number one out there, and see if we can understand some of the differences. But this is the Radioditty GM-30. Inside the box here, we have the radio, we have a charging brick, which is just a USB-A charger, a USB-A to USB-C charging cable, a belt clip that you can take the screws off on the back and add the belt clip if you want, a lanyard, and a headset microphone system. So pretty cool accessories here. And as I said, USB-C charger. Now that to me is a biggie. That's one of the reasons why I bought this, is in the bottom of the radio, or actually in the bottom of the battery, because you can buy extra batteries, in the bottom of the battery, USB-C charging. Oh, thank you. Means I can leave it in the Jeep all the time and just plug it in. If I need to hand it to someone who didn't bring a radio, I can just give them the cord if it's running low on battery and just say plug it in, and they're going to be good to go. Thank you, Radioditty, for getting into the current century with USB-C charging. So that's great. Now, basically, there's not a whole lot to it. There's a microphone jack, a headset jack, on-off switch, a flashlight, some basic features on here that all GMRS radios have, a fixed antenna. That's one of the things about GMRS is you're not supposed to be able to remove the antenna. Everything is fixed. You can't program in frequencies, so you can't just type in and dial into ham radio frequencies. It's supposed to be more locked down, and it is to an extent, and we'll talk about some of that. But $49.99, so $50 $39.99. I'm looking at it right now on Amazon. $40 gets you a very nice radio. Now, the limitation of GMRS regulations dictates the setup on this radio. So up to your first bank of channels, which is the same as FRS, it's limited to 0.5 watts. Above that, this is a 5-watt radio, so it puts out some decent power. Now, what I do want to do is compare it to the Baofeng UV5R. This has been probably the most popular handheld radio for a long time. Same thing, it has a monitor button, a call button, the push to talk button, the same speaker microphone connections on the side. I mean, almost everything about this radio is the same, except the GM-30 is slightly taller. They're about the same thickness, and they're about the same overall dimensions, other than the GM-30 is just a little bit taller. So, okay, not a big deal there. The price is about the same. You can usually get these for 30 or 40 bucks, and they're good. They're 5 watt also. The difference is I can actually, given certain frequencies, I can just type in whatever frequency I want. I can remove the antenna. I can put a different antenna on here. So this is not rated for use on GMRS frequencies. You certainly can program it to GMRS frequencies, and mine is set to have GMRS frequencies and really nothing else, and it's pretty locked down so that if I hand it to someone that's not going to get messed up, I can just say be on channel 17, we're on channel 17. But I wanted to have something that was more legal, which is why I went with the Radioditty. But also the USB-C charging. The Baofeng has a charging dock that it has to sit in, and it is the most wobbly thing on the planet. You barely touch it and it's not going to charge properly, and there is absolutely no way you're going to have that thing secured in there in your vehicle, plus it uses 110 power to charge this thing. So that has been a big negative of this thing for a long time, versus a Radioditty, USB, plug it in, you're good to go. So love that. Feature-wise, screen-wise, programming-wise, they're damn near identical. I mean, the firmware on here is almost identical. So if you can use one, you can use the other. Now, there is one thing that I want to mention about the GM-30 that, to me, is kind of a bummer, and that is the software support. While the software works and it was pretty easy to use and I had it up and running fairly quickly, it only runs on Windows. That is the only reason why I keep this little Windows micro notebook around, is because of some of these radios and accessory things that I have that require Windows. If there was Mac software for this, I'd be stoked. But the fact that I have to keep this old Windows machine around just to be able to run their software, that was a big disappointment. I'm a Mac guy, I'm sorry, I freely admit it. I prefer Macs. I do a lot of video editing. It's my favorite tool. So I would really like to see a Mac version of their software. Now, if they don't want to do that, that's fine, but I want to see compatibility with Chirp, because Chirp does run on my Mac. So if that would work, I'd be stoked. But one of the two, either make it fully compatible with Chirp or do a Mac version of the software. Either one, I'd be happy with. Now, I tried getting into this with Chirp, which it's supposed to work, and I just couldn't get it to connect. So no matter what I did, for some reason, the latest version of Chirp couldn't get it to work. I was able to program it with their own software. Now, there's no need to program anything. There's no need to touch any software if you're just going to take this and start communicating with people. Now, here in Northern Colorado, I have access to a handful of GMRS repeaters, so I can talk, well, some of them are connected to the internet. I can talk to pretty much anyone in the world who is connected to it via an app, but just covering the area with radio frequencies, I can cover a huge area with one of these as long as I can connect to the repeater, and it requires some special setup. that I can do, and I tested it. I was able to set it up on the radio itself, but I wanted to set up the 5 different repeaters, so I went into the software and did it. Programming wise, it uses the same cable as the UV5R. This is a USB A cable with a end that just plugs in to where the headphone and speaker is. Super common setup for tons of different radios. So if you get one of these programming cables, you can program a wide variety of radios. Now they just may apparently need different software. Even though I keep reading that Chirp will work with this, I haven't been able to do it. But their software was pretty straightforward because I don't need to touch any of the GMRS frequencies. I just needed to go to the repeater section and add the information for our repeaters, and I was good to go. So how does it work? Well, worked great, actually. We just took it on a trail. I was the lead vehicle. We had 5 vehicles, and the vehicle all the way in the back was using the Radioditty. We had fantastic coverage the entire time. Never had an issue. Battery was definitely low at the end of the day, and that was several hours of wheeling, which I've heard a lot of great things about this battery, but 3 hours or so of having it on, and it was a little lower than I expected. It was way lower than the UV5R with the extended battery would have been. So I need to keep testing that and see how the battery performance ends up. Maybe it was left on earlier or something, but I thought I had it under control, and but we'll see. Other than that, really simple operation. Turn it on, use the up and down buttons to change the channel. What I normally do is I set, this can actually monitor 2 channels. I set both of them to the same channel, and then I lock it. That way I can hand it to someone. The only thing they can do is turn it on and off and push to talk. That's it. So it makes it nice and clean setup for out on the trail. So is it a recommended radio from me? Yeah, absolutely. For 40 bucks, having basically a full power radio. I mean, like I said, the one that's in the Jeep, 50 watts. Do I want to put 50 watts up next to my head? No, I'll frickin' have a tumor by the time I finish a trail. But 5 watts is great. And on the trail, that's going to be more than sufficient. I mean, we have definitely had some great range, as long as, we're not like got a mountain in between us or something. Something like this is going to work extremely well. So I can't really say enough good about it. It just works. Turn it on.
Welcome. Channel mode.
I'm going to turn this on again because I can't quite understand what it's saying.
Welcome. Channel mode.
I don't know what the first word is, but then it's telling me it's in channel mode. And I'm on channel 17 on one, and I'm on my 600 repeater on the other. I can easily just change that to any of the other channels I want. So pretty handy. Like it. I like it a lot. Nice and compact. Like I said, it's really right about the same size as the UV5R. In terms of performance between the two, couldn't tell the difference. Both 5 watts, both worked great, both had similar range. We were able to use both of these at different distances, and one never lost communication with the other one. One didn't go out sooner than the other. They both worked exceptionally well. Like I said, the UV5R, just a little bit smaller, and you might be able to find a few more accessories for it because it's been around a lot longer, but it's also not technically legal to use on GMRS. Now, if you have a ham radio license, then this is legal for you to use on ham radio frequencies. So I want to be very clear, you should not buy a UV5R for GMRS. The Radioditty, nice and legal, everything's great, totally certified. This is the way to go if you want to be legal on GMRS. So very handy radio. The software, like I said, the software was okay. It works. There's really not much to it. Now there's a few things that I'd like to see tweaked in it. but they're not showstoppers. So I think for pretty much anyone who just wants a grab and go radio, this is great. It also has FM radio. I don't know why you would want a handheld FM radio, but it has it. Okay. It also has the NOAA weather channels. Now that's really cool. If you're out somewhere and you want to find out what the local weather is going to be like, well, turn it on, go to the NOAA weather channels, and you can get, pretty good up-to-date. It's going to be a recording that plays over and over again, but you can get to the NOAA weather channels. So I like that. It's got a scanner function. Works really well. No issue with that. Damn near identical to the UV5R. Now, let's talk about the license for this. Now, that is one of the downers that a lot of people say about going with GMRS is you need a license. CB radio, you don't need a license. GMRS and ham radio, you do need a license. Now, ham radio requires you to go take a test. You need at least the technician's test. It can be, for some people, a rather intimidating test. I do highly recommend that you get it if you're going to be playing around with different radios and things, but you don't need it for GMRS. For GMRS, you do need a license. Now, the FCC has announced that they're going to reduce the price of the license from $70 to $35, but at the time of this recording, which is the beginning of January 2022, well, they still haven't done it. It's still $70. But for that $70, you get a 10-year license that is good for you and your entire family. So not everybody in your family needs to get a GMRS license like they do with ham radio. In that case, everyone who is pushing that button needs to have a ham radio license. GMRS, one person in the family can get it, everyone in the family can use it. Now, there's certain rules and protocols you should use when you're broadcasting. You should make sure that you broadcast your call sign every 15 minutes. There's ways of coming on the air and going off the air, but those are things that you can pick up, and we may talk about them if people really want to have kind of a primer on using GMRS radios. But for now, I just want to leave it at $70, 10 years, entire family, well worth it. And by the time it comes around again, hopefully it'll be back down to it'll be down to $35 that they announced last year. Now, for now, $70, 10 years, $7 a year. Kind of hard to go wrong. So, looking for a good handheld radio? This is the Radioditty GM-30, available on Amazon. I'll put an Amazon link in the bottom. If you buy it from there, of course, I'll get a little kickback from Amazon. This is not sponsored by Radioditty. I've never spoken to anybody there, but if anyone from Radioditty sees this and wants me to try some of their other radios, I'd love to, because they have a nice mobile unit that I'd like to try out. The one I have has been really abused and beat up over the past year. But for handheld, this little guy is great, and I highly, highly recommend it. Every single person that's on the trail should have comms. If you come wheeling with us, you need to have a radio. That is a requirement for going wheeling with us. You have to have an FRS or GMRS radio. If you don't have it, we're not going to invite you to come along. So get a GMRS radio. Just do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Get yourself some comms. Thanks for watching, everybody. This has been Kerry with Trail Traveler. We'll catch you later. Bye-bye.